So coming from your background of the strict Catholic Italian family, you got a little bit of European in there. Do you ever remember anybody in your family discussing prejudice with you?
Not really discussing it, but I mean, when I was a child, and my father and my mother, they never raised me with any prejudice. It was everything was always diverse. I was born into a very diverse place. My grandmother, being from the old school, she, come from a whole different generation, thought that only Italians should marry Italians. Very proud of her nationality and heritage.
So
That way.
not to make it seem like all Nazi or anything like that, but she did have some form of belief of you should stay within the same.
Well, I think it was because more not so much for you're not Italian, but so much for it's a business deal.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they have arranged marriages. I come from my cousins and my aunts and uncles, and except for my mother, was all arranged.
So that would be more of a cultural
A
thing.
cultural thing, not racism.
Okay. Well, sometimes people will tell their children one thing but model another. Did you ever notice that with your family?
No, my dad was a lawyer, and he did a lot of pro bono work for everybody. He really believed in giving back to the community and trying to make it a better place for the greater good of people. So no, I never experienced that with my parents at all.
Mm-hmm.
Never.
Okay. Do you recall or do you ever have a memory of realizing for the first time that you were different or that someone was different than you or different from you?
Well, I mean, when being a kid in California, I remember I was in like kindergarten or something. And, coming from a private school, I went to private school, and you have different backgrounds and different generations raising, the little kids. I remember this little, he was a little African-American boy, and he kissed me.
Mm-hmm.
And, being the little girl that I was, of
It was gross.
6 or 7, I thought I was going to turn black.
Oh, really?
Yes. It scared me.
Yeah.
Because another kid had, said that, you're going to turn black.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't, I didn't think anything like, but it just scared me like, what are my parents going to do? I'm going to come home a whole different child.
Yeah. Well, also thinking back over your life, is there any event that happened on a national or regional scale that maybe...
Yeah, the riots.
Yeah, that maybe
was
changed
horrible.
your idea of
That
prejudice?
was a horrible...
And what riots are you talking about?
The 1992 riots? Yeah, it was in 92. California. Rodney King.
Ah, okay.
The Rodney King riots. Now, here's the thing. And I think it's wrong to beat anybody. But it just, Rodney King just happened to be black. And I don't side with the cops that beat him at all. But it didn't matter. If you make the LAPD chase you, if I was in the car, you were in the car, a Chinese man was in the car, a Mexican dude was in the car, doesn't matter. They're going to kick your ass.
Yeah.
Period. And he was high on drugs. But this is the thing. Look at all that came from that. Look at all the destruction.
So maybe that was an instance where race was put into the equation.
Big focus. That was my first big confrontation with... I mean, look at the Reginald Denny. They beat up a white guy because he was white. What happened to those people? Mm-hmm. And not only that, I mean, Rodney King, it's a misfortune all the way around. Mm-hmm. But it shouldn't be about race. It should be about, are you breaking the law?
You think that maybe it should have been more focused on, this is a man who was breaking the law.
Right, and you know what? The cops broke the law by beating his butt. Mm-hmm. But it should have never been about race. It should have been like, this is what you did, and this is what you did. But everybody went crazy because of the verdict. Because the verdict was, at first, that the cops didn't really get that much. I don't even think they got suspended, or maybe they weren't convicted. I just remember that. And I mean, within the hour, I saw my whole National Guard coming out. I had people with guns.
Yeah.
People with guns on top, private business owners with machine guns on their roofs so people didn't loot them. I mean, it was absolutely people going into stores and just taking whatever they wanted. It was crazy. Crazy. And you know why? That's why O.J. Simpson got off. Because he was using race. And LA didn't want another riot. But he was rallying around that. Because, he killed his wife.
So do you think those events that you're describing, did they influence your thinking about prejudice and racism?
It just made me think, I didn't own a slave. None of my family owns a slave. I think what's wrong is wrong. What's right is right. Don't depend on your color of your skin to always get you out of stuff. Okay. It should be what's fair is fair. I'm not prejudiced at all. I have friends of all different creed and color.
Well, what have you told your children? I know you've got a daughter. What have you told Tab?
Tab had to live through that. She saw it right along. And I tell her what's right is right and what's wrong is wrong. It doesn't matter what color you are.
So
it's about morals.
Do you think that the problem of prejudice in the United States has improved since then?
I think it's gotten worse.
You think it's gotten worse?
The riots. So anytime anybody has a conflict, and I mean, especially, and I don't want it to sound like this, but especially if it has to do with some people of color, I think they use that and use it as a crutch. Oh, I'm this, I'm that. Look at the way we've been treated. Well, we're generations from that. Do you know what I mean? And I understand that's horrible, that people who slaved you and, and all this and that, but not all white people are not. What about the Mexicans? They were slaves too.
The Irish were slaves.
Yeah, the Irish were slaves. White people were slaves. Hell, anybody who makes minimum wage is working for the man. We're all slaves to the man, the government. But, don't use that as a crutch.
Who do you believe had the most influence on your views about diversity, family? Was it family, peers, teachers,
family? My
religion?
family, my father didn't have a precious bone in his body.
I know you told me about your dad.
Yeah, neither did my mother. So, I wasn't born. Like I said, I have friends of all different race and colors. And that's diversity. And I love cultural diversity. I grew up in California. When I came here to move in Tennessee, it was a shock. And the things that I heard, you're a good Christian, but you talk gnarly stuff. It's like uncanny to me. It's like, how could you really think that that's okay?
Yeah.
Because it's not.
So when you hear people talk like that, what is your reaction? Do you feel like you have any sort of personal responsibility to end prejudice?
I just really say perhaps you should learn a little more and not be so ignorant. And, if, I hate to bring religion, but, everybody always is, especially around this area. I'm a good Christian. I'm a good Christian. Look what I do. How could you be a good Christian? God didn't say, oh, I'm for the white religion. God is, diversity.
Yeah.
Everybody's not from this, that, and this, that. You can't say you're a good Christian and have hate in your heart about other religions like Spanish, African Americans. Do you talk Mexican? Me, coming from a different area,
I know, you told me,
has experienced that. And I am, I come from a Latino background or an Italian background with a little Latino and, English and all that. And, the minute I speak Spanish, it's like, oh. Yeah. It's like, wow, man, that's a trip.
So for the last question, how do you believe that prejudice and discrimination should be handled in the future in the U.S.? You're talking about the the Rodney King riots. You're also talking about current events now where you see that people pull. I guess the term is pull the race card.
Yes.
So how do you feel that it should be handled?
I think this is the way it should be. If you did something wrong, you did something wrong. It doesn't matter what color you are.
leave the race.
Leave the race all out of it, because the more you focus on the race, the more everybody's going to jump on that bandwagon and say, "Oh, well, what about me?" And just like the Indians, you know, and
Native Americans.
Yeah, the Native Americans and everybody else. I mean, you have to
Not
leave.
To correct you.
No, you have to leave race out. Well, I mean, how many cultural slangs do you see? And I know this was a big thing in California, that what the Arabic people, the Arab people, and the Indian people who wore the turbans and stuff. Oh my gosh, how many slurs do you see of that on TV? Mm-hmm. If you're even in cartoons wise. Mm-hmm. So who's really promoting the race problem? Do you know what I mean? I mean, it's the media as well. Look, we're different. Let's capitalize on that.
In conclusion of kind of what you've been talking about, I think one of the best ways, we want to be able to celebrate people's diversity.
Well, sure.
And we want to be able to celebrate the cultures that they come from, while at the same time not making it feel sorry for me, this is where I come from.
Correct.
Or I'm disadvantaged.
Right.
Coming from that mindset mentality.
Right.
Because, our country was founded so that people of all nationalities would have the same opportunities. Right. Now, that's not what's always happened.
But now California has that law. See, this is where, you can only have so many this culture and so many of that culture, and you have to hire in that culture.
Are you talking about affirmative action?
Yes.
Okay.
If you have somebody that's more qualified, it should be like this. If I'm going to go and I need my car worked on, I don't care what color you are. Can you get my car kick?
Exactly.
Do you know what I mean? That's all it should be. Do not judge me on, I don't care if you're purple. Mm-hmm. Just do the job good.
Just fix my car.
Right.
Okay. I really appreciate your answers. I really appreciate you being here. You're very candid. You always are. I love you. Anyway, cut it for a minute.